Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Toxic Encounters book. So I have another topic that I want to discuss, and I have discussed this topic before. I think I have it as a rebound relationship special topic. It is something that I started out with when I first began creating audio lectures, audio lessons for YouTube. So the topic is parenting your man, and this is explored in chapter 3 of the book. And the book is Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, Part 1, and it is part 1 of a 3-part series. So parenting your man is something that I have struggled with in the past. And it is something I also believe is passed down in terms of what you view your own parent doing, especially your mother. And it is something that women really need to pay attention to, because we often subconsciously think that men are projects and that we need to make them over and show them a better way and get them to see things kind of differently. And we don't really speak to the competence, the intellect, the kingship in men. We assume that because we are smart in certain areas, that they are not smart in certain areas. And so that's to our detriment, because we miss out on very important opportunities when it comes to men and how they solve problems or how they understand life and what their worldview is. And we don't always get exposure to it because men tend to be very tight-lipped about things. There are some things that they will reveal about themselves. They are creatives, say for instance, a person who is a rapper, or singer, or any other type of musical creative. You will see a lot of their heart coming out in the music and how they see the world and how they see themselves as a contributor. But it's hard. It is not such an easy thing to get a man to talk and speak from his heart and speak from his mind. It is women who speak more. It is women who sort of respectfully run off at the mouth. They tell their whole life. They reveal the heart, what's in their heart, the issues of the heart. And that could largely be because women do not get the opportunity to really develop as young girls, because there's always this expectation that young girls have to fulfill adult roles, as in taking care of their siblings, cleaning the house, washing, cooking, almost becoming a second parent. And so that sort of informs why women as adults would be more inclined to parent their men as adults, right? Because we have to understand that men are still adults, whether we believe they have the mindset of an adult or not. That's really not necessarily for us to judge. We need to judge it based upon how we see the world and whether or not this person is a good fit for how we see the world. If you have a person who is at a certain adult age still living with their parents, but don't really have a plan, and is not really willing to take on an adult understanding about life, then yes, you would have to make a decision about that person and say, no, I cannot uh, engage you. I cannot be a participant, a romantic participant in your life, because I'm going to end up being the one taking care of us because you don't have that mindset. And if we did that, if we made decisions based upon logic and understanding that we are 100% responsible for ourselves as an adult, and that we don't take on much more than we need to because that other person is 100% responsible as an adult, I think we will be far less likely to take on take on the responsibilities of people who should be acting like an adult. So parenting your man then is that strategy where you believe that you must assume responsibility for someone who is capable of assuming responsibility for themselves. So I'm just going to read the questions and then add some analysis. So this is parenting your man, and it is explored in chapter 3 of the book. So in what ways are you parenting your man? What is your main argument? Do you want the relationship to move to the next level? Are you fine with the status quo? Take some time to think about what and how you are trying to get your man to understand your value. The real question is, do you understand your value? So in what ways are you parenting your man? First of all, if a man is moving in with you, you have already become the parent. And that's why the person ends up resisting uh, whatever it is you are communicating to the person, because you look like the authority figure, you look like the parent in the relationship. And sure, it is hard oftentimes for a woman to move in the house with a man, because then that person assumes a larger leadership in the relationship, and women really mistakenly believe that there is an equality in a marriage. Sure, you come with your own independent ideals, you come with your own independent thinking, but the divine perspective of marriage is actually hierarchical. And so even though you have a voice, you still have a voice, you still have a right to say things, and you still have a right to assert yourself, that the ultimate final decision making still comes through a hierarchy where God is over man. I mean, God is over husband, husband is over wife, wife is over the kids, family, or whatever. Again, that does not mean that you don't have a voice in the marriage. You still have a voice, and God can speak to you just as He can speak to the husband. But it is hierarchical, and so as soon as a man moves into your house, the hierarchy is reversed, because then it is your house where you design the rules. And it is hard for you to then change positions in your house that you paid for and let the man be a man. And the thing is, the problem with a man moving into your house, he hasn't really established his ability to get a house himself, get an apartment, get a house, get something, some shelter costs of his own, and pay it himself. He hasn't established that, because if he's moving from his parents' house, into your apartment, he has never lived on his own. And you have no record of that, and he has not established a record of him living on his own. And that is very important. My stepfather had posed that to me as well, that when you are thinking about dating or being involved or getting married to someone, ask them how old are they? One, how long have they been out of their parents' house? Two, how long have they had their own apartment and job? 3 and 4, and then do they have furniture in the house? It doesn't have to be some very expensive furniture, but there's some conscientiousness towards setting up camp, um, establishing yourself, and being stable. And if they're moving into your house and you kind of struggle with stability, and they haven't established any stability, there's going to be some instability in the relationship. It's going to show up. It always does. So that could be one way that you are parenting your man. Your belief system does matter. I hate this kind of thinking where you hear women say oftentimes, girl, I had to take him. He used to look like a bum. I had to take him and fix him up and buy him some whole new clothes and everything, so he can look like, a man. You look like debonair or whatever. Well, that's what you do with your kid. That's what you do with your toddler. That's what you do with your young adult, your teenager. That's what you do with your young adult. You go and you rear them, you nurse them, you um, pass down strategies and ways to live life, and you feed and clothe them. And so if you are already doing that in a relationship with a man, then he's just really one of your kids. If you already have 3 kids with him, he just becomes the 4th child. And so we have to develop a better understanding of what a man is, what a male is, what a husband is. And that's going to take some time to speak with fathers. And if fathers are not in the home, it makes it even more difficult. We may need to get some mentoring from some men regarding how to see men and how to interact with men, so that we don't treat them like our girlfriends, we don't treat them like children, we don't treat them like people who do not have uh, intellectual ability. So that could be another way that you parent a man. One thing I notice when we're thinking about the main argument in terms of relationships, um, what is your main argument? It's interesting how we perceive the relationships that we have, the romantic relationships that we have with men, that we honestly believe they, in a strange way, we start out serving the man, serving the relationship, whether it's a common law situation or marriage, we end up serving him. But I think in some ways it is a way to control you, as servitude, to control, so we can get the man to do what we want the man to do. And if we really had an understanding about what marriage is, right? What life is really truly about. It's all about solving problems, resolving issues. And if you are starting off the relationship, the marriage, the union, with this idea that if it doesn't work out, I can leave, or if he doesn't act right, I'm gone. He's going to have to do what I say, because you know what, I'm an independent woman. I have every right to do what I want to do, right? There are different types of arguments that we bring into a marriage that oftentimes have nothing to do with a marriage. That means that we don't have a true understanding of what marriage is, what it means. And that's just one example. But even if you were in just a regular relationship, there's a lot of things that we want as women. We want the man to be gentleman. We want the man to provide. We want the man to love us, to care for us, things like that. But we don't always exhibit the very same things that we want in the man. We want him to be a provider, but we haven't lived on our own to provide for ourselves. Whatever you are asking of someone else, you should already exhibit that. You should demonstrate that. You don't ask for a man to make $100,000 a year, but you're not making $100,000 a year. And so our arguments are off. Our arguments, I don't even think we come with a really stable, established argument. We just, again, take the arguments that our parents have passed down to us and what we have seen in the home, and we let that sort of form the argument. So is parenting your man a main argument for you? Because it may work for you to get something short term, but it's not going to work long term. No man, any man that allows you, that allows a woman to tell him what to do, is really considered a simp. He has no voice of his own. He has no ability to manage his life as a man, and so he depends solely on what a woman says. Okay, can you live with that? Can that be your argument? Can you live with that the rest of your life? Here it is. Here it is. You're telling him what to do, but then you're also telling him to be a man and stand up and rear the household and lead the household. But that's contradictory if you are controlling the relationship. So the main arguments that you form when you are in these relationships and how they sort of reflect you parenting your man is going to be, it may be an issue later, because you can't ask for a king and you are treating a king like a simp. A king is not going to let you treat him like a simp. That's not going to happen. A king is going to take leadership in the house. And if you struggle to receive um, not orders or commands, but direction and leadership from a man, it's going to be very difficult for you to be in a relationship with a husband, because you can't even respect you. You're already, talking over him, trying to get him to see your way about things, um, um, trying to direct the relationship, control, maybe pouting, acting like a toddler yourself. That's all parenting techniques and strategies. That does not work with the man who is capable, who has a mind, who has kept a job for years, who has purchased a home, has assets, has resources, has money in the bank, has entrepreneurial pursuits that he is going after, and has gone after. That's not going to work with that kind of man. And even if you told your man what to do and manipulated and controlled him, and as a simp, it's not going to work long term, because you're still going to end up being the person doing all the work, and that's going to wear on you much later. So do you want the relationship to move to the next level? Moving to the next level then means you're going to have to take some time to understand what relationships are, romantic relationships are, what a marriage is. That means if you never did premarital counseling, you may have to take a setback, take a step back, and then the both of you go to premarital counseling, because that is one of the steps that are missing in your understanding. You may also need to talk to your father or talk to another man about how to deal with the man, because you can't deal with the man in the same way you deal with a child. Those are two different perspectives. Those are two different ideologies, two different principles, two different states of mind, two different mental faculties. A child is still developing. A child is still in a mode of pouting and unpredictability, and even if you set standards in the house, they're going to buck up against those standards. That's what children do. And when you try to place a man in a position of a child and parenting him, um, he's going to buck up. He's there's a word I'm thinking about that has slipped my tongue, but he's going to reject um, your way of thinking about the matter, because no one wants to be treated that way. And so, do you want the relationship to move to the next level? Because if you continue to parent, rejection is right behind. Because when you think about it, when you are parenting a man, you are essentially rejecting him before he can reject you. You are rejecting any guidance or possible, direction or leadership that he can add to the household and lead. And so you reject him before he can reject you, and you sort of substitute whatever he could bring to the marriage, um, to the romantic relationship, for what you think is most appropriate. You don't take into consideration what he needs in the relationship, what you both need in a relationship, what the relationship needs. Because what happens is, it will be hard to move to the next level uh, if your partner, if your man decided to shut down and withdraw, completely stop all communication. You can't move to the next level. Also, if you are parenting him, you are essentially solving all the problems in a relationship. So that means he has no skill development on his own of solving problems within a romantic relationship. He might have skill development in other areas of his life, But within the immediate context of having a relationship with you, he has no voice. He has no skill development in terms of resolving conflicts that you have, because you have assumed the larger responsibility for it, and you basically speak to the weakness in the person. You don't speak to the king in him, you speak to the weakness in that person. And when that happens, people always resist. I think that's the word I'm looking for. They always resist. And when they begin resisting, it's just a matter of time that they begin to take steps backwards in the relationship, to the point that they are walking backwards out the door. And then therefore the relationship has not moved to the next level. And relationships do not move to the next level when people fail to resolve conflicts. And if you're just in the house together as roommates, walking about, maybe coming together for sex sometimes and eating or whatever, but not really communicating and talking, it's not going to move to the next level, because you're going to have to look at your strategies of parenting your man as something that cannot work within a romantic relationship with someone you are sleeping with. You can't parent a man that you are sleeping with. And so that is one of the arguments that you need to consider. And that is one of the strategies that you're going to have to abandon and let go in terms of parenting your man, so you can move the relationship to the next level. Because you guys can go on for years in the same type of toxic dynamic that doesn't even seem like it's toxic, but it becomes toxic because one person has a problem with the way the relationship is going. So are you fine with the status quo? That's an interesting question. But the status quo is, for this relationship, would be keeping it within this manipulative, emotionally controlling situation where you do all of the parenting, you do all of the relationship building, you do all of the relationship directing, and the man has no voice at all. And that's the status quo. Or are you willing to learn something different? Then the last question, take some time to think about what and how you are trying to get your man to understand your value. The real question is, do you understand your value? So if you feel the need to parent your man, that means you don't know your own value. You don't really know what you bring to the table. So you default to controlling, because it's basically what you saw, and you do what you know. And then eventually you take it on as some sort of argument, life argument for yourself, because you now agree with it. But if you realize that it is harming your relationship with your partner and contributing to the deterioration of the relationship as well, you will find that you have lost your value in thinking of, and you thinking that parenting your man gives you more value. You actually lose value, because then when you're parenting, you try to show all the different things that you can do. You try to show all the different ways that you can guide the relationship and show your man what you can do or whatever. But the more you show him what you are doing through parenting, the more you lose your value. It's like the more you try to show someone that you got value, the more you are perceived as having no value at all. And so you have to understand your own value, what that means for you. What do you, I know people hate this discussion today about what do you bring to the table, but it's still a very important question that you need to ask yourself, not necessarily in coordination with understanding your partner's value, but what do you bring to the table? Because if you feel like you have to manipulate and control the situation, you don't think you have value, because otherwise you would begin with your value. It's like the person who has a gift and talent, and they would rather do everything but exercise that gift and talent. And so if you take some time to really know who you are as an individual, that means it's going to require some reflection, going to require some journaling. It's going to require talking to people. Sometimes you may need to have a conversation with your mother and understand why she does the things that she does with her husband without judgment. Don't even say anything about anything in terms of being wrong or anything. Just listen to how she talks to her husband, to your father, or if he's a stepfather. Listen to how she talks to him. Does it make you feel a certain kind of way? Does it make you feel a little cringe, uh, the way she speaks to him? And then listen to how she complains, because she's the one who's parenting her husband, but she's complaining all the time. Because if you feel it necessary to parent your man, then you should be happy, right? You should be happy. You should be at peace. You should feel like you are accomplishing something, but you're really not. That means you are losing in value, because the more you are parenting, the more you are leading, the more you are guiding and directing, but you're not getting anywhere. You're sort of everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and it's the metaphorical and literal hamster's wheel. So that's something that you want to think about when you're thinking about your value. What sort of value do you bring? But first of all, you need to know what your own belief systems are. What are your core values? It's your way of thinking of yourself like a business. So these are the questions that I want you to consider when you think about parenting your man. And it's very hard, because if you feel like that's something that you have to do, that's probably not the man for you. That's probably not the husband for you. Because that very same man that you feel you are parenting will turn around and leave you and lead another woman and marry her, and have a better life with that person. And so that sort of begs the question. So if the person knows how to lead, why isn't he leading? And why is it that he's letting you just parent the relationship and parent him? So there has to be some kind of weakness in him. And I mean, that might speak to the fact that he may not really want the relationship, but he's tolerating the relationship because he hasn't found the person that he really wants. Because any man who really wants to be with a woman is going to be a provider. He's going to be a protector. He's going to prepare the relationship. He's going to take it by the horns, so to speak, right? And he's going to do all he can to make sure that woman knows that he's a man and that he got this. He's the leader and he got this. When you find a man not doing that, whether you are steering the relationship or not, that is telling. That is very much telling that he's not willing to step up and be the leader of the relationship. So these are the questions I want you to think about parenting your man, explored in chapter 3. And the book is available on Amazon. Again, it's Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, Part 1. You can visit my website, reginayfavors.com, for more tips and access to videos. And then like, subscribe, and follow so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And just type in my name, Regina Y. Favors. Thank you very much for listening.